Sarah, how are you? Super excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Aiton, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. We have an amazing topic today to discuss all
hmm
things influencer marketing, video production, short form videos, food and beverage industry, CPGs. But let's start with your personal story because it's also a fascinating story. And
hmm
I think your journey from where you started in Asia to launching Crafted, your startup, is really amazing and inspiring. So let's probably start with that. I would love to hear more.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. So my life story, which I think dovetails really well into, I guess, my entrepreneurial journey and the story of Crafted is so I was born in Minnesota, from the Midwest. My mom is a Vietnamese refugee. She escaped kind of during the war, she and her family. And when she was just 7 years old, she was kind of, she had a Methodist church take her on and her family under their wing. And she and her parents were able to build a life in the States in Minnesota. So, she met my dad and they had three daughters along the way. But I very much grew up, eating traditional Vietnamese food from my grandmother. Um,
Wow.
and yeah, it's the best Vietnamese food I've ever had. I've never had, I've never eaten at a Vietnamese restaurant that compares to her cooking. So every time I go home,
Okay.
I'm really excited um, to eat her like sticky rice, egg rolls, all that good stuff.
Hmm.
So anyway, so I grew up in what you would call your traditional like interracial household, um, and as a kid, I had the opportunity to live abroad. My dad's job landed us there as expats. So we lived in Shanghai for 4 years. I went to international school and we ended up living in Hong Kong for about a year and a half. And this was from the ages of 7 to 13 for me. So very
Hmm.
formative years. And because we were overseas, we had the opportunity to visit Vietnam a couple of times and I met some of my extended family, and it was an incredible trip. Probably my favorite country in the world. Of
Wow.
course, there's some ties there,
Hmm.
but for anyone listening, if you haven't been to Vietnam, absolutely, make it out there. So, all of this to say, living in China, I think when I was a kid, I didn't fully appreciate it, honestly. But when I got back and kind of reassimilated into, suburban Midwestern life, I went
Yeah.
to like the tail end of middle school and high school in that setting. And I was just kind of yearning to get back out into the world and wanted to flee Minnesota as soon as possible. And I think just my kind of upbringing in big, you know, um, metropolitan areas overseas, brushing elbows with so many other cultures while I was there
Hmm.
too. Kind of planted that bug in me. And so I decided that NYU was my dream school. I applied early and attended university there for 4 years. And I've been in New York ever since. So I recently celebrated my 10th year in New York. So that was a big
Wow.
deal. You can say I'm officially a New Yorker now. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Congratulations. You're
Oh,
officially a
yeah.
New Yorker. Yeah.
I've survived.
Yes.
So I went to NYU, studied media and communications, wasn't sure really what I wanted to do. I had held various internships in like the sales and marketing field. And so straight out of college, I thought, sales is a great way to make money. I'm good at it. And so I pursued that career. But it was really shortly after I entered the workforce that I realized that, I think that just typical corporate optics and politics and culture, I was just really not a fit for. I think so many entrepreneurs say that, so that sounds like
Yeah.
corny to say, but I think it made me curious to understand and learn more about what was out there. And there are so many different books and podcasts that I would consume to learn about this. I would say How I Built This by Guy Raz is one of the main reasons why I wanted to be an entrepreneur. Those stories just really
Wow.
have moved me. Yeah.
Nice.
Are you a fan?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, of course. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and a few others. So, I ended up kind of learning how to play the politics and worked my way up at the company for 4 years until the pandemic hit. And that's
Hmm.
when I had an opportunity to really explore ideas. I was working from home. I had the headspace, the time, and I was cooking a lot. And so this is where that kind of, multicultural experience, in my heritage and also like living abroad comes to play. I was
Hmm.
also experimenting with a vegan diet at the time. So I was just really obsessed with finding different alternatives, cooking Asian meals, and really leaning into kind of my plant-based journey at home. So I would
Hmm.
cook every single day, develop recipes, I would post them on Instagram, and got me thinking because posting on Instagram was a really clunky process. So I thought, okay, I'm going to start. This is going to be my first like crack at entrepreneurship, and I'm going to start this social cooking recipe app where everyone can upload their recipes and we'll do away with blogs and how clunky the SEO experience is for blogs, and invested my life savings into developing this app. And it was cool. I think I had this like test flight beta, but I truly didn't know what I was doing. I
Hmm.
Once I had the beta, I just started reaching out to people on LinkedIn to get feedback on it because I, again, was just kind of like at home in a silo, didn't really know what I was doing. So I started reaching out to people in the food space, in the media space, senior people that I thought, it wouldn't hurt to reach out to them cold and see if they would take a meeting with me. And I ended up getting a fair amount of meetings. I mean, that's like how I was raised in the corporate world. My
Yeah.
first job was an SDR, cold calling, supporting the sales
Hmm.
team. So I'm very good at that. I call it stalking, like professional stalker. Like that's my
Yeah.
my hard skill.
Let's not call it
Um,
spamming, but stalking.
yeah. No, yeah, no, not yes. Spamming, polite persistence is what I like to
Yeah.
call it. So yeah, got a bunch of meetings, learned a lot about the world of like the creator economy is something that I learned about. Twitch was really having a moment in 2020 and 2021 because people were in
Sure.
lockdown. Somebody, had taught me all about live commerce and like shoppable video, which I know
Yeah.
you know a lot about, in
Good.
China and how, um, in Asia, so like it was just a booming industry, this kind of like social commerce, live commerce concept.
Yeah.
So, in my head, I'd pivoted this idea. I had this app, but it wasn't really what I wanted it to be, of course. With my very little budget, I hadn't raised any money, of course. So, in my head, I was like, look, I'm going to build this Twitch for cooking, like live cooking, live shopping experience.
Hmm.
And got through those meetings. I got connected with somebody an investor who had already funded somebody else working on the same idea. And that was my co founder. So in early 2021, I met him, and he is a second time founder, engineer. And so Todd and I have been kind of working on Crafted together for the past 3 years. So, we meet, we get started. I up and quit my job with absolutely, I like to say I went to complete financial free fall because I was so
Yeah.
excited to, just like leave that past behind me, even though I really didn't have as much saved in the bank as I thought, or like I thought I had a longer runway than I did. So that
Yeah.
was totally irresponsible. I would say like the advice I give to founders now is to hang on to your day job for as
Yeah.
long as possible.
Don't jump out of this
So
clip as of yet, right?
no, especially living in New York too. I don't know what I was
Yeah.
thinking, but we made it out okay. So, so, so Todd and I built that for about a year and a half. Todd like built this thing from scratch, and that is what I think is the difference between that idea not working out and what you've built, for example, right? Like you're already leveraging the audiences and the platforms already and just amplifying from one source to all of those. Um, touch points, we were building our own platform. And so we were dragging audiences from TikTok and Instagram to join these shoppable live cook-alongs.
Hmm.
And the concept sounds great. And maybe one day it will, it'll exist in the States, but it was so hard to get viewers. It was so hard to get enough viewers
Sure.
that we could transact, right? Brands were actually pretty excited about it. We had so many emerging brands interested to have their products featured on these live streams. We had influencers really excited to host these live streams because they're looking for new ways to engage their audience. But we were basically running a three-sided marketplace. And so while we had, those two sides pretty much ready to go, the viewership was just not there.
Yes, but the acquisition is very, very difficult. Right? So,
It's very, very difficult. And so we
yeah.
were like a consumer social company, but we had also had these other players. So so, the brands were really gracious with us and would meet with us and give us feedback. And what they said was, look, if you can't get enough viewers, then can I have the content? I know you guys are recording it and we could use this, right? We
Uh-huh.
need to be posting, on our channels. And
Okay.
that's the light bulb moment where
Okay.
we
Yeah.
were like, hey, look, we already have this influencer network. We're already facilitating the match like between influencers and brands, and we can power their content engine. So agent, seriously, overnight we pivoted. We scrapped
Yeah.
everything that we'd worked so hard to build, and we became a UGC Marketplace, really focused on recipes at first, recipe content, because that was something that we noticed was a gap in the market, then
Hmm.
kind of evolved to retail and influencers, and we can get into all of that. But that is the story of, of how Crafted was born. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. It's really amazing. I mean, the evolution of things and where it started.
Hmm.
It also obviously requires a lot of, I guess, mental agility, and also from the technology perspective, doing this transition very, very fast in order to adapt to certain requirements that is probably more validated, right?
Totally. I know. I remember looking over at my co-founder being like, you are like, I'm so proud of you for not like mourning the loss of this. And he was just like, we got to do what we got to do. And that's what I think he and I are really good at. We're really good at listening to the customer and taking signs to get to the right answer.
Yeah.
And so we've pivoted plenty of times. That's the one major pivot, but we're always learning and adapting, and we're obsessed with getting feedback. That to us is so much more important than any like potentially
Exactly.
ego-driven decision that would be made. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is no place for ego, no place for emotional, attachment to the product, or like don't fall in love with your product. Probably fall in love with, like, with customer pains and customer requirements, right?
Yeah.
That's more
Oh
important.
yeah.
Very, very
Yeah, we
interesting.
learned that
So
the
in
hard way,
this,
I will say.
yeah, it's good. It's good. Now in this, also, I mean, once you pivoted and there was a clear, let's say, product market fit, right? Still, there
Hmm.
are many, many players out there who are doing similar type of services, and
Hmm.
they're using variety of technology of tech stacks to do that. What is the gap that you found that you fit in? Is it like some
Hmm.
focus on your niche, as discussed previously, or some other aspect of the workflow? What gap or what differentiation you're introducing in Crafted?
Yeah. Yeah. So at the beginning, our unique differentiation was our focus on food and beverage brands. So, why this mattered is because food and bev brands, especially ingredients, right? They need quality cooking content. They need creators that can create
Uh-huh.
beautiful recipes, and there's just, while there's so many creators out there, there is just a small percentage that has the ability to develop
Uh-huh.
recipes and cook, and the food and for the to present the food in a beautiful and appetizing way. So that was the first wedge, I would say. But food and bev brands or CPG brands primarily sell through brick and mortar retail. And so
Hmm.
again, kind of being obsessed with our customer and listening to their requests, right? They are selling at the Walmarts and Targets and Wegmans of the world, not necessarily on their brand website. And so
Yeah.
this recipe content could only get them so far. It's just more kind of beautiful content so that when people go to their Instagram page, they can see that it's legit and they can get inspired. But as far as actually kind of driving purchase, what we ended up building is a unique way for food and bev, but also any CPG brand in any industry that primarily sells through brick and mortar retail channels. We can help them launch influencer campaigns and create user generated video content with that physical brick and mortar retail call out. So we can send creators in droves to different retailers regionally or nationally, and they can, go to the store, shoot the storefront, um, shoot the product on the store shelf and really kind of drive home for consumers that, hey, this is this
Hmm.
awesome new product I like. This is why it fits into my lifestyle. And oh yeah, you can get it at this grocery store, which we found is really powerful.
Interesting. So what you're saying that specifically for the food and beverage industries, CPG, those brands that are selling on brick and mortar stores, the way that video needs to be crafted, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is more specialization that is required, right? Some unique
Oh yeah.
characteristics of this workflow, right? You mentioned the style of those creators needs to know what they are doing, whether it's a kind of a recipe
Mm-hmm.
that they are preparing. They need to be, in front of the shelf maybe for the shootout. Um, this is one aspect, and I'm sure you also have a process to vet them, right? You want to elaborate more on that?
Yeah. Sure thing. So yeah, so just kind of double clicking on what you said earlier. So
Hmm.
the boxes that need to be checked, right? Before an influencer can even create before even one influencer can create a video like this,
Uh-huh.
they need to be good. Maybe they don't need to be a food creator and maybe this is just a snack product or a ready to drink, you know, coffee product. Or again, it could be a beauty product. It doesn't have to be food, but this creator has to make quality content. Their audience has to be aligned with the brand's target audience.
Hmm.
They have to be in the region of the retailer. They have to be, within driving distance of the actual store that carries the product.
Yeah.
And they have to somehow get the product for free. So there's so many steps to getting this video created and there's so much logistical back and forth. So if we were primarily supporting e-com brands, which like you mentioned, there are a lot of players doing that. It is easier to ship the creator the product, and we can do that too, of course. But
Hmm.
the logistics of getting some to the store and making sure that they're not paying out of their pockets for the product is surprisingly really challenging to do, and that's something we've solved for.
Wow.
Um, and I can speak more on that, but to answer your other question about how we vet the creators, so we have a creator application process on our website, and we look for quality of the content. We look for engagement, and then we look for viewership. So
Hmm.
hopefully, a creator can cross off 2 out of 3 of those criteria. You could have a huge creator, maybe 60,000 followers, but they get max 600 views a video. They're not going
Got
to be
it.
a great fit for us.
Uh-huh.
Or the similar size, but they have really, really, really low engagement or fake followers or spammers in their comments. Also, not a great fit.
Hmm.
So those are the things we look for. And we have creators in pretty much every state, so we can support again like really localized regional what we call drive to retail campaigns,
Yeah.
but also like a Walmart national campaign.
Hmm. Hmm. So it seems that you resolve a lot of problems for the brands or challenges that they need to face. It's kind of it's not just the technology
Mm-hmm.
platform that enables them to access creators, of course, but it's also it sounds to me like a white glove type of service, right? They're geographically located in the right place, right? Fully vetted creators.
Mm-hmm.
pricing which is transparent and visible for everyone, and
Mm-hmm.
a kind of a managed service type of workflow. Did I get it right? I mean, this is the type of processes that you've actually built.
I think the managed service white glove piece really is happening on the back end, right? We
Yeah.
on the back end are really hand holding the creators and working with them to make sure
Hmm.
that they're onboarded to the platform. Currently, we're explaining to them our pricing model. If there's an issue, with the content or the product, so much can go wrong, and I've really seen it all. We deal with that, right? So that's the
Hmm.
white glove piece, so that clients don't have to interact with the creator, which is
Exactly.
a huge, huge value add for them because it's
Hmm.
extremely time consuming. It's a full-time
Yeah.
job to run campaigns like this. But for the client experience, it's very, very straightforward. I think I've showed this to you, Agent, so I love your
Yeah.
feedback too. But they really just log in, they approve the creators, they approve the video drafts, and that's it. So everything else is handled on our end, on the other side.
Exactly. That's the beauty of the process that you've
Mm-hmm.
built. I mean, you've spent a lot of time on the back end, white glove with creators,
Mm-hmm.
but then for the brands, it's just easy, transparent, and quick process to implement. But there's a lot of work invested, prior for this to happen, right? Yeah.
Totally.
So very, very nice. So what will be kind of a typical process for you to, I mean, for your engagement with brands? I mean, what's the usual
Mm-hmm.
workflows? How long it takes usually, and how long it takes to see some results from certain campaigns? I know that with some
Mm-hmm.
industry, it may take even months to reach some kind of a KPIs in terms of the performance of those videos
Yeah.
across social media.
Sure. So a typical campaign for us is a new store launch, right? So a brand is launching at Target, right?
Hmm.
And they have budget for an influencer campaign. So what we need from them to set up the campaign in our platform to is to make sure that we know the store locations. If it's Target National, that's really easy, and we can just kind of use the store locator. But if it's
Hmm.
a select number of targets, we do need that store list. We need verification from the brand that they really are in all the stores that they say they're in as well. So just make sure that distribution is on point. We need to know their target audience so that we can match that against uh, our creator pool, and so the right
Hmm.
creators are kind of brought to the front of the selection process. Um, and then a typical kind of creator brief is talking points about the brand, talking points about the product, do's and don'ts, some video examples, and really just anything else high level about the product and the brand. We
Hmm.
we really encourage our clients to stick with those, five things, because that will really help strike the balance between making sure that the brand gets their message across, and this brief will help facilitate content that they're really proud of and that they will you know leverage on their paid and organic channels, but it's still
Hmm.
really authentic to the creator as well. So we've seen hundreds and hundreds of briefs, and so we actually help with that brief drafting process as well, just to make sure that the content that comes out of that is up to their expectations.
Got
So
it. Got it.
that's the yeah. Mhm.
What are some of the challenges that you are experiencing specifically, let's say with the process, or maybe, with crafted? What's happening? I mean, maybe just some of the more broader scope of the industry itself. What are your
Yeah,
feelings around that?
sure. So I think it's really, we're so proud to say, hey, we're the only influencer company really focused on driving to retail and brick and mortar. But there's a reason why that is, and it's because it's so hard to prove attribution, right? So someone sees a video ad or an influencer post about this
Hmm.
new product at Sprouts or Wegmans, Target, whatever it is, and they may that's like the first touch point. That could be the first touch point out of 20 touch points until they
Yeah.
finally go to the store and buy that product. It's so hard to say, what actually drove them to make that purchase. So
Yeah.
that's one thing, but then also the data is so hard to obtain. Um, it's hard to obtain for our brands even, right? If, every single campaign we do ask our brands if they saw any lift. Some brands have the data, some don't. And it really is kind of a hodgepodge. And it's something that my co-founder and I are thinking through and building towards every single day. But,
Hmm.
at the end of the day, that is impossible to do accurately. And so, everyone in the
Yeah.
CPG space, everyone, knows that. So that is the biggest challenge, right? But as
Sure.
far as brand awareness, as far as purchase intent, those are things that we can show for through the way we um, that we measure the performance of our campaigns, and
Yeah.
that's largely through viewership and engagement.
Yes. Obviously, after an influencer has posted a video, you have access to the full analytics of that video, right? Like impression,
Mm-hmm.
likes, shares, whatever. And
Exactly.
this data obviously you collect, and it's available for the brand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what is the typical time where those posts are reach some kind of level of matureness, let's say, in terms of exploiting the maximum from this? What is the life cycle of such a post?
Yeah, totally. So we found that 2 weeks, or I guess from the very last video of the campaign, we kind
Hmm.
of capture the data 2 weeks after that. That's the life cycle. Typically, um, some videos will go viral in over the course of the campaign, and that will really
Hmm.
help kind of boost the viewership,
Sure. Yeah.
and show overperformance against our goal. But that rarely ever happens beyond that 2 week mark.
Got it. Got it. And it's all
Hmm.
organic, right? It's all organic type of
Hmm.
post, correct? 100%.
Yeah, exactly. So all the views and likes, comments, shares, saves that we're capturing are all organic.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, the content is all accessible for the brand. Like the actual MP4 files are downloadable, and our
Hmm.
clients have usage rights to the content in perpetuity. So while what Crafted is on the hook for is this organic viewership and engagement, and that's what we show for in the platform. And then this is something that we can talk about too, as far as like the broader industry and the trends happening, but we
Yeah.
strongly encourage and assume that our clients are going to repurpose this content for paid to further amplify the content and get even more eyeballs at a better price point, honestly, because
Sure.
the CPM rates for like a meta ad campaign, it's going to be better than what you're getting with an organic influencer post.
Sure. And paid media is always more effective where there is kind of a organic success, right? I mean, you post number
Mm-hmm.
of videos, you see one of them is performing very, very well. You just make the stronger, and push it also with some paid media budget. That's obviously the right process. And speaking
Exactly.
about yeah, about you operate on the from the I mean, you talk on a daily basis with the brands, but you also talk with the influencers and creators. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what do you
Mm-hmm.
see like the trends of 2024? What do you see?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts in terms of demand, some of the challenges, what's going on there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we are at an inflection point where Crafted, we have an opportunity to educate creators on, hey, you may not be able to command the rates that you could
Hmm.
in 2017,
Yeah.
right? And so and so the world is going towards higher volume. The world is going towards more performance based compensation.
Hmm.
And so, you know, while we're successfully doing that because we have 10,000 creators in our network now, we
Yeah.
do come across that challenge, especially larger creators who have talent agents and they refuse to work on a third party platform, or like their
Yeah.
rate is 15 grand for a TikTok and there's just no negotiation. So that is a little bit of a hurdle sometimes when you get to the bigger creators. But honestly, our focus is really on nano and micro influencers.
Yeah.
We really feel strongly that if a brand wants to work with kind of a mega influencer or celebrity level, creator, they absolutely
Hmm.
should do that and leverage, that kind of trend setting figure and voice for high level awareness, putting their brand on the map. But as far as content generation, as far as tapping into niche, highly engaged audiences and making your budget stretch as far as possible, that's where nano and micro influencers, like a higher volume of those, work
Yes.
really, really well for brands. Mm-hmm.
Mhm. By the way, those videos are usually, there is like very authentic video versus a fully polished type of video, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
know you mentioned that the creator needs to know what he's talking about, right? In that specific area, but what is usually, where is it going? Because I know like TikTok is more authentic kind of
Mm-hmm.
style. Probably longer form
Yeah.
videos are more polished. Well, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes. So I think TikTok paved the way for super lo-fi UGC style content.
Yeah.
And that was great, right? In 2021 to 2022, that was an awesome opportunity for brands to really leverage true user generated content in their ads. I think, there's a debate going on right now about like UGC is dead. And I because it is pretty saturated, I will say, and it is kind of tired and overdone in a lot of ways. And so, my opinion on this is that um, I think UGC is absolutely not dead, and even today, more organic, authentic, kind of unfiltered content does perform better than polished, branded content. And we hear
Hmm.
this every day from our brand. So
Yeah.
I'm not just making that up. So I think the balance is just quality UGC. If someone's just kind of in their bedroom in low lighting talking about their favorite new sports bra, which is just something that I really do think is tired and overdone and lazy in a lot of ways. That is just not going to cut it anymore. So I think finding the balance between quality, right, good lighting, and really like enticing close-ups of the product. That's what we found performs really, really well.
Hmm.
But then also having the creator being someone who's relatable, doesn't have to be someone famous, just someone who resembles the consumer. And so that provides
Yeah.
that social proof, right? And I like to think of a UGC video as kind of, taking a product review or an Amazon review and bringing that to life through a video. So
Hmm.
doing that, but, um, you know, using kind of making sure that the video is higher quality but still, authentic is kind of, how to succeed using UGC.
Yes. Interesting. Interesting. Now,
Mm-hmm.
there is also the aspect of community, right? I mean, everyone wants to build their own tribe, right? And
Yeah.
definitely food has the ability to bring people together, right? So you've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned 10,000 creators and also your network with the brands. How do you see this community build up for Crafted?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And I know it's kind of a buzzword in like the consumer and D2C and CPG space.
Yeah.
I think community is really hard to build, and I am no expert at building community.
Hmm.
So but I do think that community is the foundation, to win at social media and to win and making sure that your product is resonating before even, investing in influencers, right? And
Yeah.
so, sometimes when I talk to emerging brands and they're like, "Hey, our social strategy is not working. Like we're not getting any engagement. Can you help?" And I'm really upfront with them, right? Because I think we can create so much social proof for them. We can create so much beautiful recipe content, but I don't think that's going to build community. So my recommendation to
Yeah.
them is, do you know your customer? Are you speaking to their fears, their motivators, their needs? Um, and are you making them feel seen and heard? I think that is what
Hmm.
that is like step zero
Interesting.
before
Yeah.
investing in influencers. So we can help you scale that out, right? Once you really know how to speak to your customers and you have that
Hmm.
baseline community, we can help you scale. We can help you reach more eyeballs. We can help fuel your paid strategy. Um, so yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up because it is really hard
Yeah.
to do. And I think making sure that internally you know your social strategy and you know your brand voice and you know your customer before outsourcing to any agency is the key. And I think a lot of
Yes.
brands, especially emerging brands, will overlook, even bigger brands will overlook that piece.
Overlook that piece, which is becoming more and more kind of a fundamental for any marketing initiatives.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
really hard to do too because it's such a crowded
sure.
environment. So
Sure.
community building, but then firing on all cylinders, leveraging every single customer acquisition channel
Yeah.
available to you, and testing those is really the way to figure out what lands and how to grow your business that way.
Exactly. And once you get the data and once you know what lands, and then make the strong
Mm-hmm.
stronger, try to eliminate, try to, let's see, a lot of marketeers trying to change things that they can't control, right? So spend your effort
Exactly.
and budgets where you're strong, make it stronger, and leverage
Yeah.
differently in this era post COVID when brands are reducing SKUs, reducing markets that are not profitable, and trying to focus on their fundamentals, like going back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Great. So, what advice can you provide to new food founders and marketeers that are just starting out?
Sure. So my advice is to just put yourself out there every single day. So, whether that's posting on TikTok every single day, posting on Instagram Reels every single day, or posting on LinkedIn or Snapchat, like whatever it is, you at the base of everything you do, you have to be creating content, right? And
Yeah.
so the only way to figure out what content is going to drive that community and drive that kind of base of consumers that actually care about your brand, which is so hard to do.
Hmm.
um, you really, really do have to be consistent, right? And so not only consistent in creating content for the sake of creating it, but learning, being analytical and kind of marrying the art and science of content creation. And so once you have enough volume of videos or posts or whatever it is that you're telling the world to get in front of your target audience, you have enough
Hmm.
data points to see what's working and what's not. So it really just starts um, with testing. This is something that you can't Google, right? You can't
Hmm.
Google,
You have
okay,
to do it on
how do
by
I,
yourself. Yeah.
you have to do it by yourself
Yeah.
because there is no one size fits all.
Sure. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Great, Sarah. We are at the fun fact section of the episode. So we
Okay.
would love if you can share with us, please, something that most of your professional network don't know about you.
Okay. So I think something that people don't know about me is that I once did door-to-door sales. So it was the
Wow.
summer between, yep, clipboard and everything. So it was the summer
Really?
between,
Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So yeah, it was the summer between I think sophomore and junior year in college, and I was at home for the summer. Usually, I will spend the summer like in New York, with doing an internship or something. But this
Yeah.
particular summer, I wasn't able to get an internship, and I was in the Twin Cities, and the company that runs this door to door is I'm hesitant to say scam, but it was like a pyramid. It was like a pyramid scheme sort of structure where it's like an
Yeah.
outsourced company that that the bigger company CenturyLink is actually what we were selling. So they like license um this Salesforce. I don't know. I honestly don't really know how it works, but they posted this job for a marketing intern for the summer, and I applied, and it wasn't until day one that I realized that it was a door-to-door job. So we would show up at we would show up to the office at noon and wear
Okay.
like, typical office clothes, and then, go through a bunch of workshops and play games because we needed to get fired up to go
Okay.
hit the
Okay.
doors. And so, yeah, so showed up at noon, and then we would, carpool with a couple of people, and, we would all have our different territories. And it was basically like a couple of blocks that you would circle from like,
Really.
two, from like, yeah, 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. because that's
Just
when
knocking on
people
doors.
are more,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, yes, that's when people would most likely,
So how was it?
be getting
What was
home.
the conversion rate?
It was it was brutal. I would say I closed at least one sale a day, which is great. It was $0 base. We only made commission. It was totally grueling physically, emotionally,
Wow.
mentally, but
Yeah.
I was pretty good at it. So I made a lot of money that summer, and I learned a lot.
Nice.
But yeah, I think because of that experience, I'm like completely unfazed by rejection. And
Got
I think
it.
it was one of the hardest things until I started a company myself. I thought it was the hardest thing that I had ever done. So yeah, I'm proud of that. I think, I saw a lot of people churn every day. There were new people showing up and quitting the next day, but I stuck through it and I learned a lot. So
Wow, nice. It seems like
yeah.
you're very proud on this career episode, right? Well done. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
Really, really interesting. Right, Sarah, anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's everything. I'm really excited that we had this conversation. Yeah, my email is sarah@usecrafted.com. Our website is usecrafted.com. If any listeners want to learn more about, all things influencers, social media, and UGC.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously people can find you also on your LinkedIn that we will share and all your details in the show notes. And I
Mhm.
really appreciate your time. It was really, really interesting. Always encouraging and inspiring to see and hear about founders' stories. So keep going. Tenacity is very, very important. Keep trying, break things, and move fast. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sarah.
Right
Thank you
back
so
at
much.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.